Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us, and everything is going good for us. We ended the last session talking about vet trans and moving into local transportation. So here we are at this time, and Sally is going to fill us in on a lot of things that are happening with the grant cycle and all the other things that are happening.
Right.
So Sally, fill us in.
Well, we are at an exciting time. I know that people have been working on public transportation for Pahrump for a decade or longer.
Decade or longer.
Yes.
That's what I've heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I really do feel like the culmination of all of that hard work is about to pay off. And we are within sight of getting actual public transportation, buses on the road, transportation working in Pahrump.
Well, you know, in the last session you said something, and I'd like you to repeat that. You say we are as close to...
We are as close as we have ever been to having public transportation in Pahrump.
As close as we have ever been.
Right.
And I know I've been here, 8.5 years now, and we've been working on it during that time.
Right.
And I heard that people were working on it even before. So when you say a decade or longer, that's
It's a long time, and it is a fact, and it's a long time. And we, of course, we've had the needs studies, assessments done. The community needs public transportation, and I think we have finally gotten to the point where people recognize that need and are over that hump. And that was a big one to convince people that the need was here.
Well, tell me, what is the need? Why do we need public transportation?
Well, public transportation, we all know that there are people in Pahrump that do not have vehicles.
Okay.
They still need to get to work.
But if they don't have a car, why can't they just ask their neighbor or a friend to take them someplace?
Well, and here, that's how they do it. Our form of public transportation now is that. But
Okay.
Friends can't always do that. Neighbors, as helpful as they want to be, can't always do that. And the independence that comes from being able to get yourself to and from work without having to ask somebody for a ride or pay, $5 or $10 in gas money every time that you need to go to work will impact people's lives. And then there's always the economic impact of public transportation. And that was where we really had to talk to people about people being able to get to the store. I mean, typically, you don't have to ask your neighbor just to go to Walmart.
Okay.
And so, the things like that are going to impact economically, they see in studies across the board that there is a positive economic impact from having public transportation.
In addition to that, and I was kind of surprised. I'm a member of the Transportation Committee, so a lot of what you're saying, yes, I've heard, but so many of our listeners and viewers have not heard this.
Right.
I was very surprised when I heard there was somebody said, well, the senior center, they can provide transportation for seniors, but we have people who are not seniors that can't get transportation.
Right.
We have people that are sight impaired that can't drive.
Right.
And so, they're very limited in how they can get around.
Right.
We have people that are looking for jobs, and they can't get around except asking their friends and neighbors to take them. So these groups of people, it was an eye opener for me, and I hope it's an eye opener for some of you, to know that these people were desperate for local transportation.
Right.
And Sally's committee is pushing that forward to make it happen. We are as close as we've ever been. I love those words.
Right.
Because we really are. There's another group that I hadn't thought about, and these are our teenagers.
Right.
Our high schoolers that need to get around for some of the jobs that they want, and just to get around.
Well, and we don't provide, our school system does not provide transportation for those that want to be athletes or involved in other extracurricular activities that, parents are working, and and if the child doesn't take a school bus home, then how do they get home?
Oh.
And so public transportation can help with getting them home from practices or home from things that they want to be involved in that are good activities for those kids to be in.
Yes.
If we can just get them home from them.
I guess I was spoiled. As a high school principal, as a middle school principal, we had transportation, after school transportation for the athletes.
Right.
And we got them home, to the bus stop close to their homes. So we were able to do that. And then I moved to Nye County where it's not provided.
It's not provided. Mm-hmm.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, and I know of people that have literally moved away because there was not public transportation. Like they can go almost any place else, and work and function without a vehicle and do just fine. But here, it just wasn't possible for them to do. So,
in addition to seeing people walking, and we have the heat that's going to be coming,
right?
And to have those people out there walking from place to place with bags that they just bought at one of the stores, trying to get their food home.
Right.
Oh.
Right, we've all seen that. So we are excited to say that the county has, just within this week, agreed to take over the administration of that transportation grant.
Okay.
So we will have their, they have a functioning grant administrator already in place. That person will do all the fiscal duties that are involved with that granting. And our grant application calls for a contractor that would be coming in to contract to run a system. So you and I are not going to be the dispatchers.
That's great. Okay.
Right. The transportation committee was not going to have to volunteer 2 hours at a time to cover
Very good.
Right. We'll have a contractor that's what they do.
Okay.
Is run services, and they will be responsible for the liability of that. They'll be responsible for the vehicle insurance and those kind of things, and the legalities of things that go with that. The contractor has. And that county support is hugely important for them to be willing to say, yes, we're willing to take this on as a project. We're willing to put some grant-funded time into it to keep track of it and do the financial part of it. There will be a transportation coordinator position that we haven't determined yet whether that can be a shared position or it will be a part-time position, but however that position looks, there'll be someone that we can all go to that would be the coordinator of transportation. And then they will hire drivers and do the driver training.
Okay.
So all of that will be looked after by a coordinator and managed by the contractor that's running the service.
Okay. So there's a lot done, a lot accomplished already, and you heard her say that the county commissioners have already voted to support this program. So it's well on its way. It's moving in the right direction. But I do have some other questions. Are we going to establish bus stops throughout the town and then later expand that? How are we going to operate our system?
So the public transportation will be operated exactly like VetTrans. It will be on an on-demand service. And so you will call a number and 24 hours in advance, and they will create a route for that particular driver for the next day. And he will go to the homes, pick people up, drop them off, and then, of course, anybody who needs home within the established bus hours, of course, he would pick them up and take them home. So it will be on a demand system that's been used in rural communities our size very successfully, because it doesn't make any sense to be having a guy driving a bus around on a route during route times that aren't in use.
That's true. Very true.
Right.
That'll save time, it'll save gas, it'll save the vehicles.
Right. And then again, as a system of growth, it also shows us where people are using it. So we can, literally, I'm a real visual person. So I would be the one with the map in the, in the back room and the red pokies that would be showing where all the people are being picked up.
Yeah.
Simply because then we could establish routes at a later date. We could grow into that if we thought that it sustains a route, but we have the actual ridership data that would show us where are people going, where are they being picked up, and where are they going. And then, so if we wanted to establish routes after that, we certainly could.
Okay. And how, you said during the bus operating time, what times will the bus be operating?
I believe it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Yes.
And the contractor would work out those final details, but I think we're looking for Monday through Friday, 7 to 7.
So what do people do on weekends?
Well, unfortunately for now, we are not going to have, because of the way that grants work is we could ask for a lot of money, but we have to be able to match that money. The grantors have to see community support. We have to be able to see what we're actually given in match dollars, and that really is what limits what we can ask for, which is why it's so important that people really, we've asked people in the community to be giving, and we have people who have literally signed pledges saying, I'll give this much money.
Yes.
And that's why that's important, is because it then raises that limit of what our match dollars are.
Okay.
So again, we can grow into weekends as we see need, and as we see match dollars come in, that would allow us to ask for more money on grant funding.
Okay.
Because that's our limit. It's the match grant. It's the match funding we have.
And because we have so much support from the community, from businesses, in making this happen, and then they get the support from the county, and so we've got all this support.
Right. We're at the point where I now see no downside. That's really not the word I'm looking for. Barrier. I see no barrier now to us proceeding.
Moving forward.
Right.
Okay.
Right. There used to be that there were a set of barriers, and so we've kind of overcome all those over the last 10 years. I mean, like those things have been being addressed. And so I now see nothing that impacts us in a way that we will not have this program going forward.
Okay. Now the big question, how many buses do we have? How many do we need?
We have 3 buses that were, again, donated to us by a group in Utah.
Okay.
One of those buses is now in use. It's the VetTrans bus. And so that leaves us 3 remaining.
Okay.
We would anticipate having 2 on the road at a time during high need, where somebody would be on the south end of the valley picking people up and somebody on the north end picking people up. And we would always have a bus in reserve.
Oh, great.
So.
And how much did these buses cost us?
They did not cost us anything. They were donated to our program.
Donated?
Donated to our program.
Now, I heard there was a cost. It was $5.
Well, and I think there may have been. And, of course, there was a group of men, I think you were one of them, that went to Utah. And my husband is awfully proud. He will still say, I was one of the people who drove those buses
absolutely.
home.
Yes.
That really made a huge impact, both on morale. I mean, like people just seeing like somebody's taking it seriously, but on not having to spend that kind of money in capital costs is really what made this doable. It's one of the things that made this really doable right now.
What's the value of the buses that were given to us?
I'm sure it was 150.
I was thinking that, and I could not remember.
I think it was right about $150,000 per bus.
So that's how much was saved, everybody, by this committee. And again, we want to thank Sally, we want to thank Albert and the entire committee and the entire town of Pahrump and the entire county of Nye.
Right.
And everybody that's supporting this, we want to make sure it happens. As Sally said earlier, we are as close as we have ever been, and we're moving in the right direction to make it happen. Now, we're going to have her and Albert back in December to tell us how well things are going, and I'm hoping you're here to listen to everything we've got to say. Sally, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
I appreciate it.
And I'm going to look for you to come back in December and tell us how successful this program is. And we want you to come back as well. Thank you.